afternoon and welcome to the 157th episode of the Georgia Farm Bureau Georgia Prep Sports Drive for the GHSA State Title. Got some great guests today with some intriguing matchups ahead of them this weekend, as well as Najeh Wilkins coming on to close out the show. We're going to cover a lot of these big matchups, but Peachtree Ridge, their head coach Matt Helmerich, it's been very interesting. He's come over from Johns Creek. They picked up some big wins, and then they're going to be playing North Gwinnett this week, so that would be a big matchup for them. Then we're going to have Richmond Hill, Matt Lezotte. They're getting ready to play Camden County. They, of course, got classed up into 7A, and it was really interesting. I was looking at it. Richmond Hill has never played Lowndes before. They've never played Colquitt. They've played Valdosta once, and they're 1-0, and then the last time they played Camden was in 2020, and they won that one. So they have a chance to be competitive in that Region 1. They're playing great football this year, so that'll be a big matchup against Camden County, the Battle of the Wildcats. And then Spalding head coach Carl Kearney is going to come on in the third segment. They're getting ready to play Howard. Spalding looks really good this year. They, of course, had that big win over Troop in the first round of the playoffs last year before falling to North Oconee, but I really like what they've been doing on the field this season. So we're going to try to connect to Matt Helmerich to talk about Peachtree Ridge, but I'll go ahead and just, in the meantime, kind of go over what they've been able to do this season. So they opened up the year against Seconder. That's the brand new program. They get a 60-0 to win, and this is a theme we've seen since then. They have kind of a two-quarterback thing going. So that's Joshua Evans and Hunter Shepard. So we'll go ahead and get Coach Helmerich on now. Coach, can you hear me? All right, we're still trying to connect with him. So, yeah, Josh Evans and Hunter Shepard have both been taking snaps under center in that first week. Joshua Evans, he goes 5 for 7, 66 yards, 2 touchdowns. Hunter Shepard, 3 of 6 for 45. I mentioned it was that 60-0 win. And then in the backfield, Ladarius Dye, he's been the workhorse. He had 8 carries, 105 yards, and a touchdown in that game. But I think the key in that second.
Since the school opened, it was the high five game of the week. So, those guys always do a great job covering high school football. And it was a good experience for our kids to get out there and win a trophy and get lined up and play some ball.
Yep, and then I was impressed with that win over Lanier week 2. We mentioned the Loganville game. But what have you seen just from your two quarterbacks this year, Joshua Evans and then Hunter Shepard, the senior?
They've been battling out since spring. So, Hunter has a really, really good grasp of the offense. Pretty accurate passer, and definitely more of a pocket passer, and Josh is pretty athletic, really, really good baseball player, got a really good arm, lefty, can extend plays and can do a multitude of things as well. So those guys kind of gone back and forth, and it's been interesting. Sometimes they say if you got two quarterbacks you don't have one. But they've both struggled at times. They've both played really well at times. They both have gotten player of the week for us on different occasions versus different opponents. So we'll continue to kind of let it play out and see who kind of takes the bull by the horns and continues on and gets us in a good position to win some games.
Yep, and obviously the receivers, when you have the two different quarterbacks coming in, they've got to be kind of in tune with both of them. I saw Jeremiah Colbert has had some big games. You've been able to produce some big plays. So how's the receiving core going to improve throughout the year, just getting all these young guys involved?
That's a good point. And it has been a challenge. They do throw a little bit different type of ball, and the ball comes out a little quicker with one guy than the other guy, and then one of the guys moves around a little bit more. Can extend plays, and so it is a little different mindset for those guys. It's been a little bit of a challenge as far as our receiving core. Miles Abernathy, who's a 6'4" receiver, is going to be an FBS player. Already has an offer. He broke his collarbone against Winder Barrow, and Lamar White, who's Roddy White's son, really, really solid receiver and has grown, physically and psychologically. And I, I think that's what Roddy said. I don't think he played football up until last year. He's a really good baseball player as well, Lamar White. So, and he broke his ankle against, I think it was Loganville. So, those guys are both out, 6 to 8 weeks, hoping to get him back, by playoffs. But those were kind of our two most productive guys, in our passing game. So we haven't had those guys for the last couple of weeks. And, but we do have some depth, a little bit of depth there. Some guys from last year, and then obviously Jeremiah Colbert's a kid that can fly. And, he flipped the script a little bit in that game against Winder Barrow and took about a 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10. Took it 87 yards, I think it was, for just a quick slant. And, he went 10-7 in the 100 last year in track as a sophomore. So, he can fly. So we've been trying to get him the ball. AJ Bonds is another kid that's been, productive for us. And then Jordan Gant is a kid that, is our, really good DB for us and good in the return game. And he's dynamic with the ball in his hands too. So just trying to be careful not to wear him out because he's kind of our Swiss Army knife. So, he's pretty productive too. And then Ladavius Dye tweaked the knee. So he was our running back, played really, really well first couple games. Our MVP against Lanier, I think it was, and maybe it was Logan, I can't remember. But he was a starting running back and one of the stronger kids on our team and real athletic running back. He's been out last couple of weeks with a bum knee. So we've had two left guards. We've had two guards go down. One's been out, broke his tibia. The other one tore his labrum. So. You need a little bit of luck, with injuries, to go along throughout the season. And we've been bitten a little bit by the injury bug, but, we're plugging through and getting better and hopefully get some of those guys back.
So these were all kind of game day injuries, not really having that issue at practice. It just has happened just in the heat of the game.
No, these were all during game.
Yep.
Our starting outside linebacker tore ligaments, took a nasty block, blindside block last week, and tore ligaments. He had to have surgery on his ankle, so he was leading us in TFLs. Good, our nickel backer, and he's a senior, so sorry to see his season come to an end as well. So we got one of our better special teams guy, tore his hamstring. He's been out for a month, so unfortunate that some of these injuries happen. Moving forward, and I don't want to, blow this year off or whatnot, but looking forward to getting these guys into our weight program and getting, obviously we came in March, April, and just looking forward to getting the returning guys into kind of our weight program and doing what we do and hopefully avoiding some of these next year. Some of them obviously are not avoidable, but hopefully some of them can be avoided with some extra work with what we do with our off-season program.
Yeah, so was that Jason Nwumir that got the injury defensively?
Yeah.
Okay. But, I have seen some – sorry, continue.
I still can't say his name right. But he was just he's a ball player. He is 5'5", 160 pounds, one of the strongest kids in our team, and one of our best. I mean, he had 5 tackles on kickoffs versus Berkmar, which is just phenomenal to literally make the tackle 5 out of 6 or 7, whatever kickoffs we did. So he's just a gamer. And like I said, he had 4 or 5 tackles for losses versus Lanier, played great. Really helped us seal that victory as we held him to 3 points week 2. So, he's been a really, really productive nickelbacker for us and really, really smart kid. And I hate to see his career come to an end, but that's football, I guess.
Yeah, and you guys do have a lot of juniors. I've seen Joshua Brown, Tayshawn Wilson, Darius Wallace getting it done defensively. I thought you guys closed out the Winder game well. You had a big second half against Berkmar. And then did I see that Ahmad Muhammad had a 50-yarder this past week against Meadow Creek?
He did, and I can't overstate this enough. I mean, we were scared to death in the spring. I mean, and I tell he's not even embarrassed anymore because he was kicking off, barely getting into the 10-yard line. We could not make a 35-yard field goal. He could not punt. We averaged 11 yards a punt in the spring game against Mountain View. I mean, our kicking game was one of our biggest worries, and that kid absolutely worked his tail off in the weight room, and he's averaging, I think he's about 65% on touchbacks. I mean, every game he goes, first couple games he's down the 5, down the 2. Now he's almost kicking touchbacks every play or every kickoff. He had I want to say a 44, shorter one, like 34, 44, and then he hit a 50-yarder against Meadow Creek. And, he's averaging over 30 yards a punt now to 33 yards a punt. So what a weapon. I mean, we were talking to our staff the other day. If season ended right now, he might be our MVP just because he's been such a weapon in the kicking game and 50-yarder. I can't remember last time I had a kid kick a 50-yarder in a game. So.
Yeah, and so just one more question. What's the message just heading into this next game? It's going to be against North Gwinnett. It's a home game. That's a tough one, but it's just about playing those 4 quarters, trying to stay focused, and just communication and all those things.
Yeah, it's this is kind of a funny team because I talked about the Jeremiah track, but I mean we got some serious speed on this team, and we kind of thought our strength would be on the perimeter and some of these spread teams we'd match up well against and be able to move the ball on some of these guys, and then we go out and play. Lanier, Loganville, Winder was since I moved to Georgia, maybe since I've started coaching, was the toughest 3 games as far as just physicality that I've seen in a long, long time. All 3 of those teams, and our kids responded. And, obviously Loganville's turned out to be a pretty darn good team. They got some studs on that team. I actually called a couple college coaches and said, hey, you need to go check out a couple of these guys because they
Solomon
can play.
Leslie.
And, Yep. So Solomon Leslie, and then I forget the other kid's name. They had an H-back tight end. That's an absolute dude. I mean, and that running back. I mean, we were more physical than I'd ever dreamed of when we after our spring game when we weren't very physical, and he kept getting back up and running hard, and Coach Smith's doing a really, really good job at Logan. That's a pretty good football team. So that loss didn't sting as much after seeing them win, kind of week after week and beat a good Eastside team last week. But then we go in the Meadow Creek game thinking, hey, this is our this is a speed matchup, spread team. This is kind of what we're built for. And then we kind of went out there and laid an egg. And hats off to Coach Wofford. They do a great job. And that running back they got, Louis, I think his name is Jordan Louis. That's the best running back I've seen since I moved to Georgia. That is the most underrated running back that I can remember in a long time. Big, strong, catches the ball, vision, got a nasty stiff arm. He squats over 500 pounds. I mean, he is legit, and he tore up North Gwinnett last week again. So, again, we talked about executing against Meadow Creek, and we just didn't. So on either side of the ball and the kicking game, except for Ahmed drilling field goals. So we just didn't play very well, and the way the schedule worked out on the fall break with Gwinnett, we ended up with 2 bye weeks in a row. So which is pretty rare. But we've used this time to kind of tweak some things and work on some things and get healthy. And North Gwinnett's obviously had a good program for a number of years, and we're looking forward to going out there. And we talked about executing against Meadow Creek, and we did not do that. So hopefully we can bounce back and play well.
Certainly. All right. Well, Coach, we got to go. We're short on time, but thank you so much. Best of luck this week and the rest of the season.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yep. All right. We're going to go ahead and thank our sponsor, Georgia Farm Bureau. Take a quick break.
Our mission has always been to support Georgia farmers. That's why we created Georgia Farm Bureau Mutual Insurance Company, providing financial protection that farmers needed. While this remains the same today, we've grown to protect all Georgians through home, auto, and life insurance. From the very beginning and into the future, we stand for every Georgia community.
We are a Farm Bureau.
All right, welcome back. So that was interesting with Peachtree Ridge. With that Meadow Creek game, they ended up losing 42-19, but that was a 21-19 game at the half. And it was interesting when he was talking about how he feels like his team is actually matched up better with the physically kind of run-oriented teams, where he thought they'd be able to match up better against the spread teams, but it's kind of been the opposite. So we'll see how they match up against North Gwinnett. That'll be an interesting one for sure. But we're going to go ahead and move on to our next guest, Richmond Hill head coach Matt Lezotte. Do we have him on yet?
What's happening?
Oh, awesome.
Not
good? Much, Coach.
We
yeah,
good?
Thanks for coming on.
You got it. It's Lezotte.
Lezotte. All right.
You actually, yeah. You did good with it though. You did a lot better than most folks. Golly.
Lezotte? No, I'm just kidding.
Man, it gets butchered. I've heard it all.
So, yeah, I wanted to have you on to talk about just this region run you're about to go on. It's interesting. I was looking it up. So you guys have never played Lowndes before. You've never played Colquitt. The last time you played Camden, 2020, you got the 28-11 win, and then you're 1-0 all-time against Valdosta. So there is some familiarity, but it's certainly going to be a wild next 4 weeks.
Yeah, it is. It is sparse familiarity. I guess more so with Camden than with anybody else. But, everybody else is going to be brand spanking new.
Yep, for sure. And so how has this non-region schedule prepared you guys? You guys have been in some big games, a nice lineup of opponents. Just what have you seen so far?
Well, I'll tell you, the big thing for us has just been we've got an extremely young team putting their feet to the fire in various stages. Look at the teams that we've played against. To put their feet to the fire, none of these guys are used to playing varsity football. And so we were like, let's rip the Band-Aid off with this schedule. And we feel like we did, top 10 teams in Ware and Coffee. A perennial powerhouse down in Florida with Baker County. It's just one of those things where we feel really good about where we're at, about the growth that's taking place. But we've learned a lot, not only about our team, but about like who we want to be in our identity as a program.
Yeah, so what was that week one win over Effingham County like? So it was a 0-0 game at the half. You guys are able to close it out, though. Looks like Ty is good protecting the football, and then Zion Gilliard, who had some experience last year, he really came through for you guys.
Yeah, Effingham was a really good team, I think they really outplayed us that night. We just played good enough to win the game in the end. We were able to do some things that worked for us, but we've tried to lean heavy on the guys that the experience. You just named two of them. Another guy is Rayvon Grant, our wide receiver. We feel like he's as good as anybody that we'll see this year, and just trying to have those guys. When it comes down to it, making plays, and I'll be honest with you, to be competitive these next 4 games, they're going to have to make plays. Ty's going to have to play better at quarterback. Zion's going to have to play better at running back. Rayvon's going to have to play better in everything that he does for us if we're going to have a shot. So we're going to lean heavily on those and hopefully continue to grow as a young team.
Then obviously conditioning is going to pay off when you're getting a nice second half rally in the first week of the season. I think I saw you guys had a ton of pancake blocks. It looks like Brian Rowland had 3 sacks. You guys really got after it defensively. So what did you see just from the physicality of your team out the gates?
Well, you always question it when in early August. You get to play a scrimmage and it is what it is. In early August, when you haven't been able to tackle all summer, you worry about how physical can you really be with Georgia high school rules and the regulations as far as contact and what you're able to do. We try to manage that as best as we can to not be full contact as much as possible to keep our guys safe. And so there were a lot of question marks with the lack of experience on our team. and to jump out and to play as well as they did was really good for us. Showed, one, yes, they can do it, but two, they can do it for 4 quarters. And we've had it. There's been one game where we hadn't had the ball in the fourth quarter with an opportunity to win. I know we're 3-3, but those 2 of those 3 losses, we had the ball in the fourth quarter with an opportunity to win. That's all you can hope for is a shot. And we've learned from those experiences, and feel like as we move forward with these guys, we'll be ready to capitalize on it.
Yeah, you talked about the question marks, but I want to ask kind of about the opportunities of a guy like Caleb Easterly that can do a bunch of different things for you guys. I mean, how have you been able to kind of find his role this season and kind of maximize his playmaking ability?
Well, Caleb's a special guy. He's a better kid than he is a football player. I'll say that till the cows come home. He is. He represents his family. He represents our program as well as anybody, as well as you could imagine someone representing him. And so, and then you start talking about how good he is at playing the game of football. I mean, we showed up we had 53 guys out for our season opener last year against Beaufort, South Carolina, and everybody was close contact quarantine. And Coach Scott showed up. Our offensive coordinator showed up at his house on a Thursday evening and handed him a playbook. Said, "Hey, we're going to install this tomorrow morning. Need you to run it." And he's like, "I got you, Coach." He's just a special kid that the stage is never too big for him. And he's a young pup still. And he's been able to do some things and be involved. And we've kind of been able to build off of that week in, week out, so that he's been able to really hit full stride when it came down to region play.
Yeah, and I saw one of your defensive linemen was actually featured, I think it was last week, by Matt Stewart as they kind of do an under-the-radar players. Who was that?
Dante Goodner.
Okay. And what has he done this season just to step up? Just a coachable kid?
Yeah, great attitude every single day. He's extremely thankful to be part of our program and to be coached. And we coach him hard now, and he is thankful for it. It's very, very rare that you have kids that are extremely thankful and grateful for the time and effort that you put into them. And it makes you want to put more into them. I tell you, it's like, what else can we do to this guy? Last year he played as many snaps as anybody we had on our team. And he made a lot of plays, but he didn't create many negative plays. And that's one thing that he's done this year is he's created more negative plays. It doesn't have as many tackles for loss as he does disruptions that cause plays to be negative plays. And so he's done a tremendous job carrying that load, playing extremely hard, playing really good football right now for us.
And then talk about that Jenkins game. You guys get a big 38-10 win. It looks like Ty Goldrick was really good in that one. He's starting to really have a great season.
Well, the one thing that we know about Ty is Ty can do everything that we ask him to do. He's tremendous in the RPO game. He understands coverages and he understands route running. He understands what those guys are supposed to be doing, how they're supposed to be aligned, and what it's supposed to look like. The one thing is that we've got to cut back on is turning the ball over, and the interceptions have been costly, and it's not just the interceptions being costly. It's the timing of the interceptions have been costly for us this season. And so, he's dialed in, focused, ready to go. He shows up, even as a senior, 2-year starter, he shows up every day with an edge, ready to get better. And that's all we can ask for him. These guys are still so young playing football that we just want to continue to focus on getting better each week. And Ty's a guy that's really dialed that in, especially the last couple of weeks.
Yep. And so Ty is running that RPO. He's got Zion in the backfield. He's been really solid this year. But then a guy that I've noticed has kind of come on late is Mason Wilcox. Yeah,
well, so a little backstory about Mason is came to me this offseason is like, Coach, this football deal. And I said, Mason, let's be patient with it. He was frustrated with the amount of playing time he got as a younger guy. And I said, hey, you just got to be patient, man. He's not a very big guy. And he's getting frustrated with the physical stature of being a football player. He just didn't have, and saw other guys around him growing and bigger and stronger. But his speed is the one thing that stuck out. He trained really hard in the off season. We did some laser timing in December, and then we did it every month leading up to spring football. And you just saw him getting faster and getting faster and getting faster. And he was able to turn his attention to route running and focus on that. And he's been a tremendous asset for us. And he's done some really good things. Showed up in some really big situations for us. And he's another guy that's going to have to play really well. I don't have to say much to him. He knows when he makes a mistake. He knows that he needs to make a play better whenever he makes those mistakes. And you just got to give him a head nod. He knows, and he goes back and tries not to make the same mistake twice.
And then that Baker County Florida game, it looked like that was just a wild one. I was looking at just how many yards both teams racked up. It was crazy. So, I mean, how did that game kind of stand out from what you guys had previously seen?
Well, it's one of those things where there were tons of situations throughout the season, and you go through the course of a season. I've been a head coach longer than I've been an assistant coach, and so thinking about the game a little bit differently and seeing teams and the demeanor of teams. The one thing that the teenagers can struggle with is truly stepping over the line and trusting coaching and trusting that something is there when it's not there. That was a big game for us, learning as a team to trust our coaching, trust our preparation. We didn't capitalize on it the way that we should have, but I looked down at my watch and it was after midnight. We were on a big time rain delay, and it was after midnight, and we had the ball driving down. We had a huge 4th down conversion, and drove the ball down and got it inside the 5-yard line and went for it on 4th down. I don't second guess the decision. I wasn't playing for a tie. We could have kicked a field goal and tied the game, but I was playing for the win, and I wanted our guys' feet to be put to the fire again, just to see how they would respond and see what they would learn from the situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that's so interesting because you guys also had the missed PAT, I think, in that game, so you're down 14-13 at the half. But then the next week, you talk about playing to win. You guys go into overtime against New Hampstead and get the 2-point conversion, I believe, to walk off with the win. Oh, we lost him? Yeah. All right, that's too bad. I think it was a 2-point conversion. I might be wrong. Maybe they blocked the kick, but they ended up beating New Hampstead 28-27 in overtime. I'm not sure if that one went in 20-20 or 21-20. I'm going to have to look that up. But a really good response for them to beat New Hampstead the following week. I mentioned that Baker County game. Goldrick, despite the loss, 356 yards passing. Then Zion took 32 carries for 152 yards. So just a marathon of a game. Coach, do we have you?
Well, yeah, I'm back at it, man. Not sure what happened, but you're talking about that New Hampstead game. I tell you what, I think it's a once in a lifetime type game. We missed for 45 minutes. We played terrible football. Everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. We're down 10 points with 3 minutes left. And I told Coach Scott, I said, hey, we got to score fast. We went down, scored a touchdown, kicked an onside kick, kicked a field goal to take it to overtime, got to overtime. They scored, kicked a field goal, and then we scored. And I knew all along. I'd radioed up to the press box and said, hey, we're going for 2. Like, we're not sticking around. Again, along the same lines of the game versus Baker County, I said, hey, we're not playing for a tie. And it worked out well for us. And it was a good game in the end. You take a look at it, and statistically you look at it, and you're like, man, there's some good games, but man, it was a great learning experience for us. So many missed opportunities. We lost the battle against us that game, even though we won the game because we just didn't play very well. And we've used that in a lot of those situations as a learning experience going through and getting us to this point.
Yeah, it looked like was it Rayvon Grant had 13 catches in that game. You guys also had a good day running the ball. And so, what did you see just you guys have that kind of crazy close win that you guys steal, and then you're going to play a really tough Coffee team. I mean, just what did you see in that game, just the last game before this daunting region, going out there and playing just a ranked Trojans team?
Well, it was one of those situations where our guys had to believe that that when you make mistakes at Richmond Hill High School, we're not surrounded with guys that are going to play in the SEC or ACC or Big Ten. It's just guys that love playing ball. But when we make mistakes, those mistakes get exposed. And that's what happened against Coffee. I think we did a lot of really good things. We gave up a lot of really good things. They scored 4 touchdowns off 2 on the kicking game, a muffed punt snap and a punt return for a touchdown, and 2 pick sixes. And so you take a look at those statistics, and our defense really didn't play that bad. Our offense didn't play very good. And our special teams was not very good at all. So you take a look at it, and it's like, okay, the scoreboard says this, but how did the game really go? And it just goes to show when you make a mistake and you play against high quality opponents like the region that we're playing in, man, it's exposed, and it can get bad really fast against these really good teams.
Absolutely. Well, I know this week's game is going to be really exciting. I mean, how huge is it just looking at this region to come out here and just start off with a victory?
Well, every game, I tell our guys all the time, like, we're not playing to be competitive in this region. We joined this region. We're playing. We're going to try to win them all. The goal is to win all 4 games, and the 6 games prior were to prepare us to be put in the situation to win these next 4 games. It's. You got legacies, you got history at all these schools, kids, fathers.
Do we lose him? All right, that's too bad. Well, I want to thank him for coming on. That was great stuff, and I am impressed with just what Ty's done, Zion, all these guys that have been getting involved. And you look at what he said. I mean, only that Coffee game was the only one where they didn't have a chance to take a lead or win in the fourth quarter, and they had a bunch of turnovers in that one. If they clean it up, play well against Camden, they're coming off that bye. I think it could be a very intriguing one, and they did win 28-11 the last time they squared off back in 2020. But obviously it's a fresh start. Camden's got Jeff Herron back there. That'll be an exciting region opener, one of them that we'll be covering closely this Friday. So we'll take one more quick break. Thank our sponsors, Georgia Farm Bureau.
Our mission has always been to support Georgia farmers. That's why we created Georgia Farm Bureau Mutual Insurance Company, providing financial protection that farmers needed. While this remains the same today, we've grown to protect all Georgians through home, auto, and life insurance. From the very beginning and into the future, we stand for every Georgia community.
We are our Farm Bureau.
All right, welcome back. So our next guest, man, third program we're going to highlight is going to be Spalding. They're in 4A. They look really good, and, man, they've been outstanding in Region 2 with their first 2 games. They had a 40-14 win over Baldwin to open it up, and then this past week picked up a 32-0 win over Griffin. They're going to have Howard, West Lawrence, Westside Macon, and then Perry on the rest of the schedule, and they actually beat Perry last year in the region. So that's a great rivalry game. They're off to an outstanding start. Do we have Coach? Not yet. Okay. So, yeah, what was so interesting about them last year was not only that Perry win, where Perry was ranked number 3, and it's funny, right now Perry's 3 also, is that win over Troop they had in the first round of the playoffs. It was a rainy game. They had to battle. One thing Spalding does is play extremely hard. They don't care if it's rain or shine. They're going to go out there and represent and try to win. And to shut down Troop in a 10-3 playoff game, I mean, that says a lot, and they've been really good this year. They did lose their quarterback, Joe Braswell, but he shared time with Kurt Clark, who was their sophomore quarterback. I know when I spoke to Coach Kearney last year, it was right after that Troop game, he was just saying that Joe Braswell, he's more of the vocal leader. of the quarterback position, but Kurt Clark seems like he's stepped up significantly this year. He's got 75 of 127 pass completions, 1,052 yards, and then 9 touchdowns, only 3 interceptions, and he's averaging 175 passing yards per game. He's also ran the ball 63 times, 346 yards, and 5 touchdowns. All right, we got him. Coach, welcome back.
How's it going?
It's doing well. So I was just talking about last year we had you on after the big troop win in the playoffs. We were mentioning how you had 2 quarterbacks. You had Joe Braswell, then Kurt Clark. Kurt Clark was more of the dual threat guy. I mean, it looks like he has really stepped up for you guys in this 2022 season.
Yes, he has, man. Going back to last year with him and Joe Braswell, they both did a great job competing for the job. But, just watching Curtanian this year, he's really grown into his own, man, and he's definitely our leader.
Yep. And so, I mean, what did you see just from this team right out the gates? You get that big win over Eagles Landing. Just what did you see from Kurt? What did you see from guys like Dallas Marshall, Cedric Evans, all those guys?
Well, the biggest thing, I wanted this team to have our own identity. I wanted a new identity. We came off an 8-3 season, and, a lot of times when it comes back to a younger team and you lose that many seniors, it's very hard to figure out who you are as a team. And early on, I wanted our guys to figure out who we were as a team. And right now, we're still not, completely there, but I'm watching every single week. Our quarterback is growing. Our offensive line, they're maturing. And I'm watching, some of the guys on the perimeter, Cedric Evans, he's having a great year for us. And then let's flip to the other side of the football field. The defense has been lights out. Back-to-back, we've had 2 shutouts. So overall, we're still not where I want us to be, but, I think we're doing a great job just week by week.
Yeah, and then I know last year when you were talking about your perimeter guys, you were talking about their toughness. So is that something you've seen a return for you guys this year, just having guys on the perimeter that are going to go in there and block and just fight for the football and do what they need to do to be a physical, imposing attack?
No doubt, and you have to be selfish in our offense because, there's going to be times we drop back and throw some quick screens to you as a receiver, and you got to be selfless and go out and make some blocks when it's not, when your number's not called. So I'm proud of our guys stepping up, and, like I said, they're doing an unbelievable job just being selfless and playing well for each other.
And you were talking about last season how I know guys going out for track, coming back, and that really helped them. You had some really coachable guys that show up with a great attitude every day. I mean, who's been those guys this year that you've seen have that attitude that's kind of contagious at practice where they're going to be coachable and they're just going to embrace the game plan and just have that right attitude?
Well, I mean, to be quite honest, I hate doing name calling because sometimes you miss out a name or two, but overall, I just want to say, just collectively as an offense, I think they've all just, embraced the grind, showed up to come to practice every single day. They've worked in the weight room, and, defensively, they've done the same. So collectively as a team, I can go and call names, but I don't want to miss out a name, man. But I just want to, just really just give a shout out to my whole team. My entire coaching staff, they've been phenomenal. My offensive coordinator, Thomas Hoffman, my defensive coordinator, Chris Henderson, and, the entire coaching staff. We've had that vision, and our kids have embraced it, and as a unit, I just think we've done a great job just, picking where we left off from last year.
I mean, have you seen that just with Kurt Clark in particular, though, just his role as a vocal leader, just day in and day out?
Now, I will tell you that. Just watching from his freshman year up until now, he's not afraid to get on anybody. I watch him every single day. He's yelling and screaming at the offensive line, trying to get those guys lined up and get them in the right place. Gets on the running backs. If receivers are wrong, he gets on to those guys. And heck, if somebody on the defense is wrong, he's been that vocal leader. And along with him, I got a couple of more guys, Dallas Marshall, Trent McCord, those guys are trying to be the vocal leader. Tyquavius, Holland, those guys are not afraid to get on each other. And, I challenge those guys. When you get on to your teammates now, but one thing you got to be careful about, once you get onto your teammates, you got to be accountable for your actions as well. And they've all stepped up to the challenge.
Yep. So then you get the win over Eagles Landing to start things off. You mentioned you had a young team. Then week 2 against Mary Persons. I know as a defense, you like to talk about them as a unit. Looks like Mary Persons was able to spark some big plays. It might have been miscommunication. They had a big day, I think, running the ball, 44 carries, 427 yards, 5 touchdowns. How did your defense respond? Because they've been just significantly looks better since then. Just to have a tough matchup where guys like Duke Watson just have big nights against you guys.
Well, I think our game plan was, it just wasn't executed. And it goes to both sides of the ball. Offensively, we didn't punch it in a couple of times when we should have punched it in. Defensively, we had a bunch of misalignments. And when you don't do what you're supposed to do as a football player, big plays, you give them up. And that's what happened on that night. And, I challenged the coaching staff as a whole. I challenged the defensive coordinator and the offensive coordinator, and they both took it. They challenged their guys. And ever since then, we've been lights out. And even though we had one more loss versus Dutchtown, it still wasn't a loss that you just walk around and hold your head down and shameful about the loss. And I'm proud of our guys responding the way that they did.
Yep, against Fayette County the next week, you get the 44-7 win. They don't score till late in the fourth. I think you held them to under 100 yards. So, a huge response for the defense. So what was that like? Did you see them kind of breathe a sigh of relief and just kind of refocus for what the goals are for your program this year, just being able to respond and get that great result?
Yeah, they did. And here's the deal, man. Everybody gets challenged every single day. As a unit, my job as a leader is to challenge my coaches every single day, and their job is to challenge the players. And once the coaches take the challenges, of course, the players are going to respond as well. We've done a great job of doing that.
Yeah, and so the Dutchtown game, obviously everyone's been talking about what they've been able to do this year. They're a great team, but, that was a really competitive football game you guys played. Very easily could have come away with that victory. Looks like Dwight Terrell had a big game for you guys. Zakeem Barker, I think, or Barham had 2 interceptions. But did Dutchtown, was it a blocked punt they had that kind of changed the game?
They did, and, here's the biggest difference in the game. Of course, like you said, we had those 2 picks by Zakeem Barham. I thought Dwight ran the ball extremely hard. I thought our offensive line, they responded and had a good night. Defensively, they had a great game. But the biggest thing, you just got to execute and make the plays when you get an opportunity. There were so many miscues and shot ourselves in the foot with a bunch of silly penalties. And you combine all those, that's the results that you end up with.
Yep, and so they end up coming away with that 21-14 win. That closes out your non-region schedule. And then what's been the just thing that has driven you guys through this first 2 games of the region where you guys have really come out, played exceptional, the big win over Baldwin, and then this last week against a Griffin team that basically had your guys' number the recent seasons. You guys just come out 32-0, just massive win.
Well, those 2 teams, man, I'm going to be honest, this entire offseason, our kids, they constantly heard about Baldwin. They constantly heard about Griffin for several reasons. Baldwin, they came here and they took one away from us. And, it was a chippy game and some things that were done in the game and some things done post-game that we didn't like. And that was one of those games that I didn't have to talk much about. Our kids understood the magnitude of that game. I thought they came out and they were lights out. And fast forward to the Griffin game, again, same thing. We played those guys last year and we turned the ball over, and we just, we didn't play a clean game. And all off season, our kids heard about that. They had to hear from the fans. They had to hear from the opposing players. And my message to those guys was, don't do a lot. I didn't want them to do a lot of talking. Don't go to social media. Don't go to talking and talking about talking about what you're going to do. just wait until that first kickoff, and from then on, let our pads do the talking.
Yeah, and so obviously the Baldwin game, you guys avenged that loss from last year. Griffin's a program you're familiar with, and then, I mean, you're going to play Howard this next week. They got off to a hot start, but then back-to-back losses. They're going to be really motivated to get the win. West Lawrence is a great team. Westside Macon's a really tough team as well, and then Perry to close this thing out. They're going to want to kind of avenge last year's loss. But then just going back to last year, you match up with North Gwinnett in the playoffs. I mean, they look great. What's your overall sense of 4A this year, just as a classification that really looks wide open?
And it is. I mean, starting off with our region, man, we play in an unbelievably tough region. Every week is a challenge. My kids, they understand that. Like, there's no such thing as a week off. So when it comes to our region, first and foremost, you got to take it one day at a time, one win at a time. And like you said, 4A is going to be wide open. There's a bunch of good teams in 4A. So we just got to take care of business one week at a time and let everything else play itself out.
And then just defensively, I mean, you talk about your defense as a unit, but what is it the speed, the physicality? What's it going to take just to get you guys through this region?
Well, defense can't do it alone. Of course, that's the strength of our team right now. Our defense is unbelievably good. We're extremely fast. Our guys are physical. We're just going to have to tackle well. That's one of those things that our coaches have been focusing on. We don't have a lot of missed tackles. When we don't miss those tackles and all 11 guys are flying around to the football field, to the football, we're going to be extremely tough to beat. So that's one of those things we're focusing on this week. Offensively, I think our offense is one of the best in the region as well, one of the best in the state. But the thing is, we just got to execute a lot better. We get those opportunities in the red zone. We can't come out with 3 points. We can't come out empty-handed. We got to get 6 points.
And then just last question, you're talking about you wanted to find a new identity for you guys this year. I mean, you're 6 games into it now. What do you think the identity is? Just the overall attitude you guys bring to the table? Is it just that team mindset that clearly you guys have? It's not just about the offense. It's not just about Kurt Clark. It's not just about Dwight Terrell, Cedric Evans. It's just team focus day in and day out.
Well, we're going to play like a family, man. I want our guys to the biggest thing is our brotherhood and our family unit. That's what we're focusing on, being close like a family, tight like a family. Outside of that, everybody's going to understand how physical and how tough we are. That's my main message. We're not worried about anything else. We're not going to play a pretty brand of football. We're just going to bring it.
Yep, and that's one thing I know you mentioned last year too. You want your players, your guys, to hold their heads up high. So, I mean, how has that also helped you guys just when you have these tough losses early in the season to be able to respond, continue to believe in yourself, and get this hot start in the region?
Because they have to understand tough times don't last, tough people do. And, that's what I always talk about. You're going to have some adversity, but how do you respond? Everything is not going to always go your way. So you can't walk around and pout because of a loss. We can't pout because of a 15-yard penalty. How are we going to respond when things get tough? And, that's what I'm looking for from my football team.
Awesome. Well, Coach, you got me fired up. This is going to be a great run in the region. I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys are going to do to close this thing out, fight for that home field in the playoffs, and just finish strong. So thank you so much for joining us. Best of luck, Coach.
I really appreciate you having me, man. The best of luck to you as well.
Yep, for sure. All right, so we're going to have to keep Spalding in mind. They got a big one against Howard. We mentioned the season finale against Perry. They had that big win over Troop last year. They got a really good just overall mindset and attitude of what Coach Kearney's doing. I mean, I've seen some of their games and watching them. It really is an exciting football team. They have a ton of speed always, and we're looking forward to that. So what do you think? Do you want to come on, Najeh? We'll talk about this next game. All right. I mean, we're going to talk to Najeh, but things have been super busy. We're swamped with the Hall of Fame, all our normal stuff. But, yeah, we'll talk about just this upcoming matchup with East Coweta at Carrollton. we got our very own Rusty Menzel in the building. I know he's excited for this one. But really, there are a ton of great games this week. I mentioned the ones that we have right here, but also I'm interested in that Walton-North Cobb one. North Cobb's a tough matchup for them with that offensive line, and they've been trucking on week in and week out, playing close game after close game. See if they can play keep away from Walton, kind of like they did with Buford. And then I know we also on Monday we're talking about the game between North Atlanta, St. Pius. St. Pius able to come away with a victory in that one. So North Atlanta starts 4-0. They have the back-to-back losses. Wheeler and St. Pius still got to like their chances, though, but I believe they're in. No, yeah, I forgot who else is in the region. We've also had, I thought Monday's guests were really interesting with North Springs, what they've been doing at that program, and then, yeah, all that. Monday's episode was great, but yeah, we'll get. What do we got? 10 minutes till we go?
No, 10 minutes.
Yeah. I'm not streaming 24/7. No, we'll just talk to Najeh for a bit and get my notes. Because I think he was going to highlight that big matchup between Valdosta and Lowndes, another outstanding one. And after talking to Richmond Hill, their matchup against Camden, I mean, that just, all the focus is going to be on Region 1 this weekend. Do we have them on yet? All right. And just looking at the rankings, I mean, got a team like Spalding. I think they have a case to possibly be in it. They had the one tough loss to Mary Persons, the loss to Dutchtown, very easily could have been them. Yes.
What is this Target helmet? What is this concussion CTE helmet from?
That is a Trip probably in like 98. Yeah, I did look it up. You can actually see it. It's there's a 1998 sticker. Yeah, there it is.
1998.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Thank God I was there like 4 years after this, or I don't know if I'd be able to make it through this. I mean, this thing is like putting, it's not even like, I think metal or lead would probably be better. I mean, this thing is a deadly weapon for sure. My God. But yeah, I need to find the other ones. Yeah, tough times make tough men. But I always got gypped on the helmet process. I know I wasn't like a physical guy, so I can't really complain. I wasn't out there playing linebacker, but I never got the fancy new state-of-the-art helmets. I always had these guys. All right, so we got Najeh on. Najeh, what do you think about this matchup you've kind of been looking into between Valdosta and Lowndes? I mean, there's so much history there. We had Shelton Felton on with what Valdosta's done. Lowndes has been kind of up and down with big wins like the one over Grayson. I mean, what's your sense of just how competitive this game is going to be on Friday?
I think it's going to be very competitive. I was able to talk to head coach Zach Grange for Lowndes. He told me a little bit about the rivalry. They hand out a trophy, Winnersville Classic trophy. And actually, Lowndes has the upper hand. They've won the last 5 matchups actually against Valdosta State. Obviously, Valdosta leads the all-time series 37-23, but to get 5 straight wins, and like he said, there's a lot of things that goes into that. So I think this is going to be a very close game. I don't really see a high score. I think 21-17 possibly. And I'm going to go with upset. Just a quick pick there. But I think it's going to be good. An interesting note, too, Craig, is that their quarterback, Marvis Parrish, was actually a receiver before going into this year, their starting sophomore quarterback. And he actually was in a 3-way battle for the starting role before their fall scrimmage. He eventually, won the role, but, the coaches liked what he's done. In that Grayson game, he was 8 for 9. And they really like to run the football a lot. But that's a name to keep an eye on, obviously, is Marvis Parrish. You know what I'm saying? Defensively, I think they're very good. Stout up front. Jaden Reynolds, I believe, leads them in sacks. So I think this is going to be a great overall game. And then for Valdosta, they're coming in at 6-0. Obviously, how tough this region is, 2 6-0 teams. Everybody's above 500. You're going to have to come out, firing hot. You can't – if you – one region loss can really loom large in this one if you want to try to win a region title. So it's going to be a very competitive region. I think Friday night we're in store for a good one. And the coach already told me that they're near sellout range for Lowndes. So I think it's going to be a good one.
And then our game, I mean, you're going to have Westlake, Pebblebrook. That's a good one. But, I mean, who do you think's going to win in this? Carrollton, East Coweta 1. Carrollton comes in so hot, 6-0. They really haven't had a close game since that South Spalding one, a big win over Rome, blowouts, Villarica, then the one over Hillgrove. I mean, what's it going to take for East Coweta just in terms of defense, toughness, and just overall execution to be able to slow down Carrollton?
Yeah, it's going to definitely start with, ball security, I think, not turning over the ball. Obviously Carrollton is a team that makes you pay if you turn over the football. I think they have 11 interceptions, I believe 18 total turnovers. So if they turn over the ball a lot, I think they'll be, in trouble. And the coach told me, he says, you feel like they're a dangerous team, but when they turn the ball over, he feels like they kind of get beside themselves and it's harder for them to win games. He said the 2 losses, they had 5 turnovers in each of those games. So the key is going to be not turn over the ball, get the ball to your playmakers, obviously leading to your running backs. And, interesting story there. We'll talk about in a second with the running back. But, they got Brady Tillman, who our very own Rusty Mazel has talked about, a guy I thought that was under the radar is having a phenomenal season. And I think he has a offer coming up or a visit coming up with Georgia this weekend. So, I mean, I think it's going to be a good one. So that's what East Coweta needs to do. And obviously, if you're Carrollton, you need to come out hot. Put the ball in your playmakers' hands. They got Leslie Odom. Bryce Hicks is a great running back. He can catch the ball, too. I think he's third in the receiving as a running back. This Julian Lewis might be the next best, quarterback coming up as a freshman that he's starting. So the key for East Coweta, obviously, start off fast, try to limit, create, some kind of pressure, mix up your coverages a little bit, and, lean on your playmakers offensively and don't turn over the football.
Absolutely, and yeah, that is something we've been talking about. What Coach Small said about the running back is about to play with a broken arm. He's going to have it casted up for East Coweta. What have you heard about that, and what did Coach Small say?
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. He said he actually broke his arm last game. Didn't know it until later when he went to the doctor, and he said he still played in, and he said he can still carry the football. He's going to have a cast on. So, I mean, I think that's very interesting to see because Deontay Jones is actually a junior, and then their other running back actually has been hampered by a hamstring injury. So, I think that's something to keep an eye on. Obviously, if they can't get the running game going, that's going to make them one-dimensional. But I'm curious to see how he's able to tote the football. Hopefully, he doesn't, injure himself more. Jones doesn't, but he said he's been a great young man. He liked the growth that he's had this season, and he's really, come on and taking the role over. So, I think it's going to be something interesting to keep an eye on in this game.
Absolutely. Any other games, though, that have been on your radar for this week before we close out the show?
That's a good one. I think you mentioned it. That Westlake Pebblebrook, I think, will be a good one. Obviously to keep an eye on. I didn't look really too much at the schedule. I have to go back, potentially maybe Friday
if I'm
on.
On our scoreboard yet.
Yeah, to kind of look. But I think like you mentioned, that Westlake Pebblebrook game would be good. Obviously, Lowndes and I do remember. I think you correct me if I'm wrong too. Correct. Peachtree Ridge and North Gwinnett, I think, would be a good one. You just had Matt Helmerich on. I'm curious to see how they perform. If Peachtree Ridge comes in at 4-2, North Gwinnett comes in at 5-2. They got sophomore quarterback. Ryan Hall has been having a pretty good season. This is a region matchup. I'm curious to see how both teams are going to come out. 7-8 football. So that's a matchup I've been kind of eyeing to see how they're going to perform, how they're going to play, and who's going to come out Friday night. But I'm going to definitely delve deeper into some matchups and mention them on Friday. But that's one that's caught my eye as well.
Yep, we will get those top matchups highlighted, and I just saw another one I'm looking up right now. I think Westminster at Stevenson could be an interesting region game. Westminster had that epic 2-point conversion gamble against Holy Innocents to kind of steal that one last week, and then Stevenson's looked pretty good this year, so I think that will be a good one. But, yeah, we will be back on Friday. Jordan's going to join us. We're going to make some bold predictions with all these games, and Najeh's going to break down some more action, and we will see you then.